Hi guys, I'm Charlie or Charlie Book Fanatic. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to do the A Star is Born book tag. If you don't know what A Star is Born is, it is a movie that was made a long time ago and multiple remakes have been made since that first movie, and the most recent movie came out last year. It features Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga, and I absolutely loved that movie. It was a real tearjerker. If you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth watching. It's very dark though, so I would put a trigger warning on that. I can't really tell you obviously because that would be a huge spoiler for the plot, but I would put some real trigger warnings there for like depression. It basically features two musicians who fall in love with each other, and one of them really comes out of her shell and becomes a great musician, and the other one goes downwards. Really sweet, but also really sad. This book tag is based upon that movie. I found this book tag on Booksamino, which is a reading app. I'm not sponsored by them, like always. I just find my tags on that. The idea behind this tag is that there are lyrics from the songs and a book prompt is based upon that lyric. The first lyric is: black eyes open wide, it's time to testify, there's no room for lies and everyone's waiting for you. A book that opened your eyes to a societal issue you weren't aware of before. For this one I chose Educated by Tara Westover. This is a non-fiction book I read recently and it really opened my eyes toward different kinds of families. In this book Tara is telling about her own family, who are an extreme survivalist family. They don't believe in education, in modern medicine, in computers, that kind of world, and Tara grew up in that, and eventually she left that world to go to Cambridge, which is kind of impressive. She had to teach herself all kinds of stuff because she never actually went to school. She was never even really homeschooled. She didn't learn a whole lot at home, and in this book she details her life within that survivalist family. And I never knew really how survivalist families worked, but this really opened my eyes. This being a societal issue. Like, I don't really want to say anything to disrespect this family, but it is definitely problematic. If you read this book you know what I mean, but there are a lot of incidents and accidents where someone got hurt and it just wasn't a doctor, whereas there should have been a doctor because the incidents were that serious, and really how they were solved. It's kind of horrifying for a child to be growing up in that kind of environment. Maybe it's time to let the old ways die. It takes a lot to change a man. Hell, it takes a lot to try. Name a character who self-destructed / changed in a negative way throughout a novel or series. I think it's the most fitting trilogy / character I can name here, and that is Adelina from the Young Elite series. Adelina really changes in a negative way throughout the series. She starts out as an innocent girl with a deformed face, and throughout the series she becomes darker and darker. She's seeing illusions, which is her power. She can manipulate these illusions. She gets darker. She doesn't really care about human life anymore. She just doesn't really care about anyone anymore throughout these novels, and it is just plain sad. Although she is one of my favorite morally grey main characters ever. I really love this series, and I really think you should read it. This is a series by Marie Lu, by the way. I didn't mention that. She's also the author of the Legend trilogy and the Warcross Duology. This is one of her better series, if I say so myself. This is really a villain origin story, if I should describe it in any way. Don't ask too many questions you don't want answers to. Name a book or series that you didn't or don't want to finish because you were afraid of the way it would end. For me, I don't really have a pick here because I don't really have reasons to not pick up a book. I would really pick up anything. I'm not that picky with the books I read. I do know what I like, so nowadays I don't add a lot to my TBR anymore, but if someone recommends something to me, I'm always kind of willing to pick it up. Are you happy in this modern world, or do you need more? Is there something else you're searching for? A book or series set in the past that you loved. And this is one of my favorite prompts ever because I have so many historical fiction series that I love. The first one I want to talk about is the Frontlines trilogy by Michael Grant. Michael Grant is well known from the Gone series, which is a very long series that I still want to get into at some point. This series follows 3 different girls who get into the army. They perform different jobs. One of them is in intelligence, one of them is actually on the front lines, and the other one is a medic. They all have different backgrounds, white and privileged, Jewish and black, and you see their different experiences within the First World War. This is an alternate retelling wherein girls could get drafted to fight on the front lines, which wasn't really the case back in the day, but I think this is one of the best books I have ever read. I always thought I didn't really enjoy stories about wars, but this is one of the series that really changed my mind, and I really enjoyed reading about these different perspectives. Another series I would say is the Velvet Jean series by Jennifer Niven, who is well known from All the Bright Places. I don't have the matching edition for the last one, but that is because I can't really find it anywhere. It's so sad because these books are super pretty. But this is one of my favorite series of all time. Jennifer Niven is still one of my favorite authors of all time. I loved All the Bright Places. I love this series even more. One of the best historical fiction series I've ever read. It follows a girl called Velveteen, and she starts as like a young girl, and you really follow her growing up throughout the ages, and you see the different things she experiences. She teaches herself to drive a car in the first book, which was totally unheard of for women back in the day. She learns how to become a pilot, fights in the war, she is in intelligence, she literally does anything and everything, and I absolutely loved her throughout these books. She's one of the most lovable main characters I have ever read about. And the last books I want to talk about are a duology. It's the Wolf by Wolf duology by Ryan Grodin. This is the one series I really love by Ryan Grodin. I tried reading different books by her, but this is the one series I keep coming back to because I don't really like her other work. This is an alternate retelling also of the World War, but this one is World War II. It follows a main character who can shapeshift, she can change into anyone she wants, and that makes this really interesting because it has a fantasy element, obviously. It follows a girl called Yael who is participating as a different girl in an intercontinental motorcycle race, and she has to win it to meet Hitler and kill him because she is part of this rebellion. And that is really the basic premise of this whole story. She has to become someone else because girls aren't really allowed to participate, but there was this one girl who once disguised herself as a guy and she won, so she can participate again. Because she already won once. No other girls can participate, so Yael has to change into her. And that really is the whole start of a love story. Different complicated relationships because they think she's this girl called Adele and not Yael. And really, for Yael's background story and everything is one of my favorite series of all time. And I feel like that is kind of a common thing with historical fiction stories these days. It's really one of my main genres. I'm off the deep end, watch as I dive in. I'll never meet the ground. Crash to the surface where they can't hurt us. We're far from the shallow now. Name a character who has so much depth and contains an infinite amount of layers. And I thought long and hard about this one, but I always come back to Miss Marvel by G. Willow Wilson. Miss Marvel is a Muslim main character. She's a normal girl who goes to high school called Kamala Khan, but she's also this superhero called Miss Marvel. And she really grows throughout this series. First volume is she's still kind of shallow, but when you really get to the other volumes, you really get to know her and her group of friends, and all the diversity in this is really, really great. And all of the characters are explored deeply, and I really love that. I really love how everyone's dynamics are so complicated. How different characters figure out their sexuality throughout this series. I just love where this is going, and I can't wait to see where G. Willow Wilson will take this one because this series is not done yet. When the sun goes down and the band won't play, I'll always remember us this way. A favorite book your love will never change for. The Match series, or the first book in the Matched trilogy by Ali Condi. I haven't read this one in a long time, but it's basically my Twilight. It's the book that made me fall in love with reading, and I don't think I will ever really reread it, but I still want it on my shelf, and I still want to treasure it forever because it really made me love reading. Match is about a dystopian society. Yeah, I know, it used to be a huge thing back in the day. And the main character called Cassia, and in this dystopian society, everyone gets chosen for you. Cassia has a best friend Xander, and she really expects herself to be matched up with Xander at the matchup ceremony because also their lovers get chosen for them, and it turns out to be the case. But then a different face also flashes up on the screen, and Cassia can't get this different face out of her mind. It wasn't supposed to happen, she doesn't know who this guy is, and she still gets matched up with her best friend, but she also wants to figure out who this other guy is. And really the story takes off from there, and Cassia trying to get to know this guy, really everything from there. It's a love triangle, but it's also so much more than that. I have heard a lot of negative things about this series. People love the first book or really like it, and then they don't really like the rest of the series because it's kind of slow. I don't remember it being slow, but I read this like years and years and years ago when I was 13 or something. I'm 21 now, so I don't really remember, but I used to really love this series, and my love will never change for this series because I treasure it so much and it got me back into reading. Life is so simple. A little boy, a little girl, laughing and loving, trying to figure out the world. A cute and adorable contemporary book you would recommend to the world. I'm really destroying my shelves here by taking off all the books, but I would recommend Save the Day by Morgan Matson. This is Morgan Matson's newest release, I think. It follows a girl during one weekend. Her sister is getting married, her whole family is coming back to their main house to meet up for this wedding, and it's basically this one girl falling in love throughout the weekend, trying to plan her sister's wedding, and also everything falling apart. This book was ridiculous. Honestly, the amount of things that go wrong is very unbelievable, but I still had a lot of fun with this book. I thought it was adorable. I really love the family dynamics. This book has the best family dynamics I have ever read about. I just really loved this. It was super funny. I know a lot of people were like, this was not Morgan Matson's best work. I didn't really like this. It was unbelievable, but for me it didn't have to be believable. I just had a lot of fun with this one, and I would recommend it for the adorableness it has, and also for the times I was laughing throughout this book because it happened quite a lot. And then the last one is Don't want to give my heart away to another stranger or let another day begin. Won't even let the sunlight in. No, I'll never love again. A book couple who literally could not be with anyone else because they're so perfect together. For this one I chose Kat and Inês from the Six of Crows duology. I don't have the second book, so I'm only showing the first book, but I definitely do still want the second book. I think everyone knows what Six of Crows is about. This is the second series in the Grisha world, and it follows a whole cast of characters who are trying to perform this undoable heist. A lot of relationships formed throughout this series, but I think my favourite was definitely Kat and Inês, and I think it is because of the last scenes. They have undeniable chemistry. There is a particular scene I'm talking about, which I also talk about in my vlog, which I will link down below, because I did an entire reading vlog of my experience reading these books. It is very in-depth. It is a really in-depth discussion about these books and what I thought about them, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but I just really love these two together. They don't really form a couple in the first book yet. Kat is very standoffish towards Inês, and Inês thinks all Kat wants is to perform this heist, get his money. He doesn't really care about his crew, and she couldn't be more wrong about that. And that's really all I can say about this. I really love this, and I would really recommend this if you haven't read it, but I would recommend you read the Grisha trilogy first, because I enjoyed my time so much more with this duology after I read the first trilogy. So this was the A Star is Born book tag. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know down below if you agree or disagree with any of my answers, or what would you answer to any of these prompts. I would love to know. Thank you for watching.